Welcome back to the Learning Matters podcast. I'm your host, Doug Woldridge. We have a very exciting show today. We're joined by Mallori Steele. She's an instructional designer, entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Growductive Consulting, founder of Black in L&D, a professional community supporting and connecting over 4,000 Black professionals in the talent, training, and learning and development industry, as well as founding the Learning Exchange that provides a nurturing space for first-time Black speakers to foster their ability to take on the industry speaking circuit. She's going to walk us through how she got into the world of learning and development and talk about her newest event, the Badass Moms event that's coming up May 9th, a tribute to moms offering a space to connect, learn from inspiring women, and find your community. Let's get to the interview. Thank you so much for joining the podcast with us today, Mallori. To start things off, how did you end up in L&D, and more importantly, how did you do it while living abroad?
My story is so random and like non-traditional, I would say, but I thought about L&D for a while. I knew a lot of people in the space, but I lived in Abu Dhabi actually, and I didn't quite understand what they did. I knew that they were in the space, and I knew I was interested in their work. But at the time, they were like, you need a degree to go back to school. My undergrad is in business. And so they're like, yeah, you need to, it's not going to work, basically. And I just thought about it off and on. And then I was in Turkey. We ended up moving to Turkey. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to figure it out. Like, how hard can it be? And I know to all the long-term, highly educated L&D professionals, this is no disrespect to you at all, because I have so much respect for you guys, but that was my approach at the time.
Yeah.
That's just how I am. That's how I am in general. I'm like, how hard can it be? I'll figure it out. So I put my youngest son in Turkish daycare, and he was the only little non-Turkish person there. And put him in Turkish daycare, and they loved it. He loved it. And I just started studying. I just studied. I watched a lot of videos. I read a lot. And it was incredibly overwhelming, but I just dived in. I was like, I had the blessing at the time to not have to work and learn a new profession, right? So that's a caveat. Like, it's different for a lot of people. I also had, at the time, my husband who was working, so I didn't have to bring in any money at the time. So it was a very comfortable, safe space to say, let me just try this. And so that's what I did. And just slowly but surely it worked out.
I'm going to be honest. I'm so surprised that you've only been in L&D for a couple of years, because when I was working for the talent acquisition team for TTC, I review a lot of portfolios, and your portfolio absolutely blew me away.
Thank you.
Yeah, so some of our listeners are just getting into the L&D space. And are there any classes that you could suggest to them, or maybe courses or YouTube videos or anything like that you could suggest?
Yeah. It's funny, whenever people ask about resources, I'm always slightly hesitant because it always translates to, in my DMs, ask me for like more specifics. And I'm like, listen, I don't remember all the videos I watched. I will say, at the time, we were on one income and a very, very minimal income at the time. Moving to Turkey was pretty much a 50% cut of my ex-husband's salary, because it was the opportunity. The opportunity outweighed the income. So saying that to say, there was no money.
Yeah.
So there very minimal money to like spend on things. I definitely took, and I'll say this, I'm not affiliated. I do not receive any income from this. But I took IDOL Courses Academy.
Yeah.
And for me, I was very early on. I think I was like cohort 2. This was in 2019.
Oh, wow.
This was fall 2019. And it was incredibly helpful to me, but it only got me so far.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll put it that way. Go through any type of course, any type of cohort, it's only going to get you so far. And then you have to obviously do the work. But so more than taking the course was the relationship. So the owner of IDOL Courses kind of took a liking to me, and she's like, okay, you're good at this. Like, you're good at that. Like, you've never done it? So I was like, I've never done it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, I just keep researching. I obviously take the course and the content from her course, but I also would like supplement with a bunch of other stuff. And to be honest with you, Doug, I never finished the course. right? It's like at the time it was like lifetime membership. And every time I felt like I was learning, I got fixated on one area and then I didn't finish. And so I would go back and I would go back to it when I needed it. So in general, I never go through anything straight. I'm one of those people where I'm like, I'll open up directions to IKEA and I'll just skip to the part because I feel like I need to know. But I'm not looking step by step. I'm like, I feel like I know how to do the first 10 steps. How do I do this next, 11, 12, 15? So, but Robin was like, do you want this offer? Do you want this job? Can you do this project? And it was very, very low paying at the time, very low paying. And I said yes to everything.
Yeah.
I said yes to everything. I said yes. Like, it didn't matter the money because I was like, I'm just here to learn. And so honestly, I feel like that was the benefit where I just learned everything because I was just hungry to learn everything. But most of my stuff, I think I took a few like very cheap courses from Udemy on instructional design. At the time, there wasn't as many YouTube videos. There's a lot more now.
Yeah.
There's so much on now. I think I read a lot of blogs. I think what's interesting is so many different companies have like restructured or changed names. And so I don't know what's out there now, but because I haven't been looking, but I read a lot of blogs and I want to say Articulate had like an open blog. If you didn't have an account, you could still like read their blog. So I don't know how helpful it is, but that was my approach. When I needed to know something, that's when I would look it up. I didn't do it in like a succinct way.
No, I think that's incredibly helpful because two things. Not everyone takes courses the same way. And I think the beauty of the way that you took courses and really structured the beginning of your career for this is that you did things basically like learning in time. The time that you needed it, you learned it, you applied it, and really the main focus is that you took opportunities when they came knocking. And I think that's a huge thing for folks that are just getting into this industry who may be coming from like higher education, maybe government side of things, not quite in that corporate spectrum, but just jumping into the deep end and seeing what happens is really going to make or break your career in this industry. So thank you for that. What was it like making the transition back from living abroad for several years to the States, especially during COVID?
Yeah, the people who kind of know me or know of me, they know the living abroad story, and I talk about it a lot. And I talk about it a lot because it has impacted so much of my worldview. It's impacted so much of how just my experience. Like I don't know a lot of things about living in America as an adult. There's things I had to learn the hard way. Like you have to renew your tags every year. And I was like, I got pulled over. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought it was automatic.
Note, why do we have to do this? Just send me the new ones.
Yeah, that's what I thought happened. I thought they just send it. I thought it was automatic. Okay, so there's just things that I laugh at myself because they're like, well, you like, I obviously sound American. I obviously am. Now I'm 40 years old. So like, you're a full grown woman. You should know what to do with your tag. But the transition was more so initially just concerned with my kids, to be honest. Like it was like, I'll be fine. I've obviously lived here. I've been born and raised in Cali, but my kids were born abroad and lived abroad. And so I don't know if I took the time to think about how I was transitioning and like how I was doing. But from the intent of getting into instructional design, which was like, I need a job that I can do remotely. I need a role I can do kind of on my own time, and I need to freelance. And that was my focus. And that's why I got back that's why I decided to go into instructional design. Being an expat, especially what they call a trailing spouse, living abroad. So you're there because your spouse has a contract. Right. It's very hard to get jobs. It's very hard to get a job as a trailing spouse. And so that was kind of part of it. Like, okay, well, even if I do get a job, we're going to eventually leave and go somewhere else. So for that reason, it was like, I'm just going to freelance. And that was the focus. COVID hitting and having to come back to the States was a very wild story of the whole thing that happened. But coming back and saying, okay, do I get a job or do I keep freelancing because it was working? But it was different because our rent was covered abroad. There's things that's covered abroad. And coming back, it's like, oh no, there's bills to pay. There's like significant bills to pay. And lovely United States of America. So surprisingly to me, my business just kept doing really well. So I feel like, I don't know, Doug, there was no one or two things of how I transitioned. I feel like when life is happening, I think everybody dealt with COVID, right? Life is happening. This is our new reality. Like, just roll with it. And I think now people are probably stopping and saying, am I okay?
Yeah.
Am I okay?
Did I really make it out of here? Okay.
Like, are we good? Unfortunately for me, in that same like time frame, I went through a divorce and all that stuff happened, but there's so much happening that I feel like I wasn't as mindful during the time to be able to like give a good answer. Like, how did I deal with it?
No, it's fine. It sounds like a massive whirlwind. You know, a lot of folks are just focusing on their sourdough starter. This sounds a little more intense than that.
No, there's definitely no like just I'm going to learn to cook or I'm going to learn to like do Pilates. It was like a major transition,
right.
Major transition.
And speaking of transitions, how did you go from being like full-time mom to being a full-time mom who also has to work a full-time job?
Yeah. So I give so much credit to moms in general. I just feel like from the moms who work through their pregnancies, I didn't do that. I don't know how you guys do it. I have so much respect. And I want everyone who is not pregnant, have never been pregnant, to just be sensitive to pregnant women at work.
Yes, please.
I don't know. I don't know how they do it. But the blessing in disguise of a divorce is that we co-parent. So I have my kids every other week. And so I can't say I'm similar to other moms who have their kids full-time and they went from full-time home or whatever it is to full-time working mom, and the motherhood duties never end. So it's a little bit different for me because I have a very busy week, and then it calms down and I get to recover. And then I have, a week later, another busy week with my kids. So I feel like it's been trial and error. I feel like I've done things in some grace. I think my kids have given me a lot of grace, but the working from home is the biggest benefit to me. Like the idea of going into work as a single mom, and this is just like a little plug to anybody listening who has control over remote work, is like, let the people work from home.
Yes. Yes.
Not everyone wants to, and I get it. It's fine. They love the energy of an office, right? The buzz of it, the relationship building, all that. I enjoy that too, to an extent, but having the benefit to say, my kid is sick.
Yeah.
And I don't have to figure something out, and I don't have to, go to the doctor to get a doctor's note when I'm like, they just need to rest, and now they're worse because we're in a freaking hospital.
Right.
It's like those small things of like, just being able to like pop in and do some laundry, and, switch the laundry over, or like throw something, in the oven, and just, it's very helpful to be able to work from home. And I feel like that's a benefit to me of going from stay-at-home mom to full-time working mom. But honestly, the biggest challenge is probably just usually my youngest son, the little comments of like, you're always working, you're always on your computer. And that's the downside of working from home, because that's what it looks like, especially during the summer. Yeah. Right? It looks like you're always on your computer. And I'm like, actually, I just logged on. You just logged on, but you want a smoothie. So because of that you're complaining. So yeah, I feel like I want to give you better answers, Doug, but honestly, that's the truth of it. It's, I don't have it as hard as a lot of moms because I don't have my kids full time. And so it gives a little bit of a break.
Well, that segues perfectly into a little community question that we have from one of our Learning Matters listeners is, what do you do to get away from the craziness of work? So is there any advice that you can give to our listeners on how to keep a balance, try to keep a balance of that personal time and that work time when you're trying to run a business, when you're trying to schedule these events and do all these massive things?
So I'll say I think I have very good boundaries because I only have a certain amount of energy and then I'm done.
Love it. Yes.
Yeah, I only have a certain amount where I'm creative and I'm excited and I enjoy it. And then when it's gone, like you can't fake it, you can't force it. And so I'm like, I'll just be done and I'll go for a walk or I'll do whatever. Where I struggle is that, and I think a lot of moms feel this way, and there's a term for it I saw on TikTok last year, where you just kind of like, it's not doom scrolling, but it's something scrolling where you're just there. You know, you're not you're
Passively
there.
looking
You're
at
not really
things, like you're
passively
kind
looking,
of
you're not
bringing
really
it
paying
into
attention.
your mind and stuff, but you're just like going through the motions.
Yes. And so where I struggle is that as far as like, I can have the boundaries. Work is not an issue. I can stop work and I'll get to this later. I'm one of those people I can get back online late at night if I need to give myself a break, or I can wake up early. So I don't have an issues with like balancing the boundaries of work. When I take the time away, it's like to do things that's actually mentally, emotionally, physically healthy versus like, I just want to lay here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to do nothing. And I think as a mom, like we wouldn't tell our kids that. It's like, okay, go get up, do something, be productive, go outside, go to the park. But I'm like, I'm not doing that. I just want to do nothing. I want to hear nothing. I want to see nothing, do nothing. And so that's where I'm like, I want to get back, especially in the winter, Doug. Oh my gosh, don't ask me to go anywhere. Right, so I want to do better at saying, okay, I am having this time to myself. I have the balance, but what am I actually doing with it? And, you know, listen, you guys tell me your tips. I was like, these are the things I would love to say. Oh, I'm going to take a pottery class. But the idea of committing myself to these things on a day that I'm like, I actually don't want to do. I don't want to drive anywhere. Right?
Yeah.
I just want to cuddle up in a blanket with a little space here and watch Netflix. So, but also I think that's okay too.
Yeah.
So I've given myself permission in this season to say, that's fine. Like if I want to do absolutely nothing, then I'm going to do absolutely nothing.
Exactly. And I think that's so important to be true to your actual feelings, what you want to do, and do what you want to do. And that way, when you get back into the work, you do feel refreshed. You feel like, all right, I had my time to relax and wind. Now I can get back to the craziness that is life. I want you to tell me a little bit about Badass Moms. So what drove you to creating this gathering or this event for Badass Moms?
You know, it's a combination of feeling like I was a bad mom or feeling like that was implied to me in so many different ways. One, post-divorce, right? It's like, okay, divorce is hard in general. Yeah. Okay, so anybody listening, they're like, yeah, it's hard. And it wasn't dramatic. There's nothing crazy, but it's hard, and it's hard on kids, and there's a lot of guilt there. And that's kind of followed me. And then obviously being a working mom or busy, there's like this guilt that just tries to come in. But at the same time, I was like, well, yeah, I am. I am a bad mom. And then I was like, I am a badass mom. And like, because I do this and I do this and I do this, and I'm, present for my kids. And I was feeling like I was off and on a bad mom. And so I obviously know a lot of other moms feel this way as well. And I was like, I really want us to get together as moms and just talk and have conversations, and as working moms to have this space. And I was coming off the end of the learning exchange, and I was like, I'm not going to do it, maybe next year. And I just couldn't shake the feeling. I couldn't shake, like, no, this is a year. Nothing is really done on a professional level for Mother's Day other than Mother's Day, right? To the moms. There's nothing specific to us. And I was like, okay. And I'm also a solutionist. So if something isn't there, or if I have an idea, and I'm like, well, I'll just do it, right? I'm not quite someone that waits for other people to like, oh, somebody else will do it. I'm like, no, I'll do that. And so that's what this is. I wanted to have a space for moms, all kinds of moms, and to be able to come and have conversations about things that impact us, that we care about, that we may struggle with, and really for it to be an inspiration, because I'm a collector of stories. Somebody used that phrase and I love it. And I enjoy stories. And I feel like that's where I feel like I have been impacted the most, where I don't have heroes or like key mentors per se, but I have a lot of people's stories that impacted me, like in the smallest ways. And I feel like the more we share our stories, the more we share experiences, the highs, lows, good, bad, it helps people. And so I'm hoping for moms, and obviously people who aren't moms as well, but that's what it does, is that it encourages and inspires people. You hopefully build a network or meet at least a couple new people. And so yeah, that was kind of, it's a multiple reasons, but I was like, okay, Mother's Day is a great time to do it. I was thinking about doing it in general, but I was like, okay, Mother's Day is a great excuse.
And it seems like with social media platforms, we have all this access to the outside world, outside of our homes, but the true sense of community is lacking from there. So I think these type of events can really make that community possible, which is kind of what I think you're touching on there. Is that what drives you into putting these things together? Is it and spending the unbelievable amount of hours into making these things a reality?
Yeah, I am incredibly community-based. I always have been. It's just part of my core values. I don't think I could get rid of it if I tried. As much as there's times where I'm like, ugh, just worry about yourself, Mallory. I'm like, but the community. So it's just in my nature. And so I do feel like while social media is incredibly helpful, LinkedIn, I'm a LinkedIn girly. That's where I'm at. I'm not really on other platforms right now, at least for this year. And so I feel like while LinkedIn is great, it's not really community based, even if you're in groups. And people tend to stick with who they know, right? Stick with who you know. And the space where, especially the way we're doing it, is that it's an opportunity to meet other people, to engage with other people, and without worrying about, are they going to accept my connection? Do we have to set up an individual coffee meetup? It's just this. It's a different space to have community, and have community however you want, right? I think that's important to say, because some people want to get together. They want to continue in person or continue to get together virtually. Some people want to have, that person that they bounce ideas off with, or those group of people. And other people just want to have people they know that if something comes up, they have connections of people they could talk to about issues or topics or concerns or work or whatever. And so the way you do community, I don't think it matters, right? So we're not dictating how you do community, but having the opportunity and the space to build community, I think, is lacking. In a way where you don't have to be so pinned up and so professional. And, you're representing your company, at conferences. There's certain sides where you kind of feel like, okay, I have to put on to an extent because of my title or my role or how people see me. And that may still be obviously the case. We know where you work, we know who you are, but this type of community base ideally is meant to be more laid back and more authentic. At least that's my hope.
Okay. And with that, I think it allows for better conversations, more truthful conversations, less guarded conversations.
Yes.
For those of us who aren't badass moms, but we want to support the badass moms in our life, and we want to learn from their expertise too, are we allowed to into this event, or how do we support?
Yes. It's funny because I'm like, if you have a mama, then you should be attending Badass Moms. Registration is free with an option to pay. So it's lovely if you can pay and to support, but it's free, right? And so come register. We're going to do early registration or early access, meaning early access, meaning you can join and log in Monday, the 6th of May. Although the event is not till the 9th of May. So it gives you some time to go through some profiles and see who's attending and stuff like that. You can also network beforehand. You can schedule meetings on there and DM people. So there's a lot you can kind of do before. And so the part for people who are not badass moms, you can still get so much out of it. We're talking about boundaries. We're talking about mindfulness. We're talking about entrepreneurship. We're talking about some human design stuff. So there's a mix of topics and conversations. I will say this is not an L&D focused event at all. While there's a lot of L&D professionals, it's not an L&D for those who's L&D, obviously, or if you're on this podcast, but learning and development, because some people always think labor and delivery. So learning and development, L&D. And yeah, I feel like it's meant to benefit moms, but if you're not a mom, I strongly believe it'll benefit you. And I feel like people need to listen to moms more.
Yes.
Anyways, so
Mom knows best.
This is not mom knows best. I always say that. I quote from the movie Tangled, even though she was not a good mom, but I quote from the movie Tangled to my kids, mother knows best, like all the time. Because, I'm like, we have this, just intuition, and we know, we don't know everything, but, we know. I'll say that the entire event are all panels. And so that's something that's a little bit unique from what I've done in the past from organizing. And it's all panels intentionally because you get to hear multiple voices versus just having a presentation or having like a fireside chat. I tried my best for diversity because it's part of, again, my core value. I value it. It's important to me. So it's diverse voices, experiences, backgrounds, opinions. And so, but it's all panels. So just sharing that part. And then the final thing I'll say real quick is that if you can't make it on the 9th, right? If you're like, oh, I can't make it, I'm booked, I have meetings, I'm traveling, whatever it is, you'll have a month of replays. So you can go back until June 9th and watch any of the videos. You can rewatch them.
Very cool.
You'll have access. So we want you to have that. As long as you're registered before May 9th, you will have replay options.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And as someone who has helped, more like struggled to produce like a virtual summit type of thing, can you tell me a little bit about AirMeet and why you decided to use this platform as opposed to other ones?
Yeah, I'm so curious about the struggle part, Doug. But AirMeet, the first time I did a virtual event was the Learning Exchange in 2021. And I want to say I used Teams. And yeah, anyway, so I just had to think back for a minute. I want to say I used Teams, which wasn't bad, but it does not provide like a community networking experience, right? AirMeet, while, this is not paid ad or anything like that. I really like AirMeet. I really like
AirMeet. If you would love to sponsor us or Mallory, hit us up. DMs are open.
Listen, they need to, because I feel like so many people ask me about AirMeet from doing events with them. So they have wonderful customer service. They have 24-hour customer lab service, which is nice. And they're incredibly responsive. And so for that reason alone, when you're doing these type of virtual events, if something is going wrong, but you can't get in touch with someone, it's an issue. I can't say anything has gone wrong, but it's just the fact that that's there. So that's one. Two, depending on what a tier you sign up for, AirMeet is great for my experience because we have speed networking options, right? So if you opt into speed networking, it'll connect you one-on-one with someone. There's a fluid space that we have. So I'm also plugging Badass Mom. So we're going to have speed networking. We're going to have a fluid space. A fluid space is very like everybody, whoever is in this fluid space, you can kind of move around virtually. Cool. And like talk to different people. So you can't hear everybody at once, but the closer you get to someone, that it's like, oh, I'm having a conversation with you.
That's so
very
cool.
Similar how if you're in a conference and you walk over to someone, you're engaging. Yes. So that's the fluid space, and we'll have that. And then they have networking lounges. So think of it like, again, if we're having a networking event at a restaurant and you're at a table or you're at the bar and I want to go talk to you, then I go sit at that table. And so there's all these different tables. You can create a table if you want to name it something. You're right. You're like, oh, we want to have a TTC table. Great. Like you create the table, and then if people want to come sit at your table and get on camera and, open up their mic, they can engage with you. The profiles, right? You could put all your stuff, your bio, your links, all that jazz in your profile, but also the fact that people can DM you and I can't say they'll see it, but they have an opportunity to see it, which isn't often the case on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn, you kind of go to people's other folder if you're not connected with them. So that's an opportunity where you can connect. There's like a feed of what's kind of happening if people are commenting in the feed, very much like a Facebook. So there's all these different things that you can do. If there's certain sessions that you're interested in, you can, click it, add it to your calendar, and it'll add to your personal calendar so you have that reminder. But AirMeet is great. I feel like it's a great platform that makes things easier to play at a virtual event. There's still a lot of work to do, obviously. But it's relatively seamless to where also the UX UI of it. Okay, that's the other part. The UX UI is great. There's some things that could be improved, but they're working on it. And it's very user friendly. It's very responsive and user friendly. You can be on it from your phone, from your iPad, desktop, whatever. So I'm a fan.
Yeah,
I'm a fan.
That's awesome.
And I've looked at a couple of them, a couple of platforms, and they have demoed a couple. So I do like AirMe.
It sounds like an incredibly exciting tool that does make it seem very much more in depth, like you're actually there, as opposed to just passively listening to speakers or whatnot, or doing like breakout rooms and things that are just very very well known in all industries, but not doesn't really have that personal value to it, doesn't really have that community value to it. So that's awesome. I do want to take a little moment to talk about Black and L&D. The link will be in the description. If our listeners haven't already gone to this, please go to Black and L&D on YouTube. While I think that there's a lot of Fortune 500 companies that have finally started to realize and recognize the importance in DE&I, there's an incredible amount of work to still be done on the individual level, all the way up to the top of the ladder, to make sure that the cultural experience of a corporation is focused on bringing in the best possible talent, no matter the color of skin, gender, what part of the world they come from. How did Black and L&D come to be, and where can folks go to support?
Yes, so I'll answer the second question first. So to support, follow Black and L&D. You do not have to be Black to follow us and to kind of engage. So on LinkedIn, we're Black and L&D. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, although it's pretty quiet. We only really post when there's something happening.
Sure, yeah.
But you can always follow us, Black and L&D. So I started Black and L&D, which started off as Black Instructional Designers. And it's interesting because it's the same time frame that you talked about, which was 2020 was hit. There's always been, unfortunately, a lot of violence in the Black community, and with when it comes to police violence with the Black community in general. But there was it was heightened, right? 2020 was it was a heightened time. And then that summer, George Floyd was murdered, and it was just odd online. It was an odd space to be, because it was so, I don't want to say it was polarized, but it was just so incredibly devastating and traumatizing. And then for a lot of Black people, re-traumatizing. And so, anyways, as somebody new in L&D at the time, I would ask some questions, or, I'm in all the groups because I'm here to learn. And I just felt like there was this energy that kind of felt like I was consistently overlooked or dismissed or ignored. And I had this one in particular experience on LinkedIn on a post where, without going through a whole long story, people were commenting and on my thread, but not actually answering me or talking to me or answering my question. And I was just like, oh, this could be a gender thing. It could be a Black thing. I don't know. But it kind of it made the space for me to say, let's just have a space that's safe, because I can't be the only one that's feeling like this. And I just want to be able to ask questions. I want to grow. I want to learn. I don't want to feel like I'm asking a stupid question, and I want to be able to be vulnerable about what I know and what I don't know. And so that's where Black Instructional Designers started. And it started as a Facebook group and a LinkedIn group. And really the whole point was just to ask questions. It was I just have questions. I just want to know, what to do. What do you do? Or how does this work? And it's turned into its own thing. It's turned into a completely awesome community. So now I renamed it to Black and L&D because, as you know, not everybody are instructional designers.
Yeah.
And my awareness at the time was yes, we are. That's what everyone does in this space. And so now it was okay, let's try to represent all of us. Sure. And so the Black and L&D came about, and slowly but surely turning into a nonprofit. It's taken some time, but we're going to get there. And we are a community of Black professionals that are in the training, learning, and development, talent development space all around the world. Got some people kind of all over, which is awesome. Not as much. I'd love to grow more. But if you have a colleague who's Black in this space, tell them, because not everybody knows about Black and L&D. Some people are very, careful about, like, I don't want to get in y'all business like that. But no, get in our business. Like, share, like, share, let people know this space exists, this community exists. There's obviously so many communities. It's not meant to replace. Right. It's just meant to be an added one. It's only Black people in the group, in the private group. But outside of that, you're more than welcome to engage with us. I think we're about over 4,000, over 5,000 members.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. I feel like it's grown. It's been awesome. It kind of just does its own thing now, because all the people finding it and people coming in and people who answer questions and ask questions and share information. And some companies will DM me and they're like, "Can you post this job in Black and L&D?" So that's kind of a direction we want to be able to go.
Cool.
Where sometimes what I've heard is like it's hard to find talent, and it's like, well, not really. It's there.
They're there. You gotta look.
Yeah, you gotta look. You gotta dig a little bit. But yeah, I'm happy to kind of post opportunities, and so we'll do things like that. But that's Black and L&D.
Awesome. And how does that network?
And sorry, I'll say really quickly. We are on YouTube. All the videos that are currently there are from the Learning Exchange 2023. 2024 has not been posted yet. So people are like, I don't see these videos.
It's coming.
They're not posting yet. It's coming.
That's a perfect segue into my next question, which is, how does this network coincide with the Learning Exchange?
Yes. Same thing, Doug. The pattern for me is I'm a solutionist, right? Like, this isn't here. It's not happening. So let's do it. So this around the same time, 2021 is my first year where I went to a conference, a learning and development conference. And in this industry, conferences are a very big deal. I don't know if it's the case in every industry. It's not my lane. And then in this industry, it's a big deal, right? And there's so many a year. And I was like looking at which ones I wanted to go to, what I was interested in, and I just start noticing like there's not many minority speakers, like, at all. Like, not even just Black, just in general. Like, there's not that many minorities. And then I start noticing it's the same people at different, because I was like, okay, that's interesting. And so I was kind of asking around, and what I was learning was that either people are just too scared to apply, right, to submit a proposal because they feel like they're not going to be chosen, or they have submitted and they're consistently declined. So I was like, well, let's just build it our own. Like, let's build a virtual conference and let's feature Black speakers. And that was the Learning Exchange. That was the point. That was the purpose. And it started off very small, and it's still small, but it started off very small. I think we had maybe 5, 6, 7 sessions. And then I decided to do it again so I did in 2021. And then last year, 2023. 2023, it was, to my surprise, such a great event. And anybody can attend the Learning Exchange, right? It's a virtual conference that is featuring Black speakers covering a variety of topics. The reason why this exists, right? I really want to share for the people who are like, why does this exist? Is that, one, in order to submit proposals at other conferences, a lot of them you have to have speaking experience. And in order to have speaking experience, you have to be provided an opportunity to have speaking experience. So
it's catch-22.
It's catch-22, right? So the Learning Exchange, you get the speaking experience and you get a recorded video, or record everything. So you have something to link to, right? So that's one. 2, for people who are just really nervous and too scared to even apply for bigger conferences, it's like, this is a nice little initial entryway, okay? This is a nice space to get into. And it also, you still have to go through the proposal process. You still go through the full process. It's just a very niche group. And then 3, it provides opportunities to hear from Black perspectives. And we do not have the same perspective. We can about a lot of things, right? You and I have very similar perspective about spiders. We're not messing with spiders. But there's so many things when you in work and how you view training, how you view learning. We have different perspectives, and I just strongly believe in having inclusive voices being heard. So it doesn't solve the problem in conferences, okay? But it provides another avenue to say, hey, here are your voices you should hear, and your perspectives that have something to say, and hopefully it trickles into us seeing more diversity in these larger conferences and L&D spaces. So that's
incredible.
Exchange.
And one of the reasons that we started this podcast was to truly talk to actual leaders, people on the vanguard within this industry or within just entrepreneurship in general. And Mallory, you are a true leader in this industry. So really thank you for bringing your insight to the podcast. And before I get you out of here, I got one last question for you.
Yes.
If you had one piece of advice for a badass mother or anyone who's out there that's looking to get started in a new career or a business, what would that be? Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
I would say do it. I'm a big, what's the worst that could happen? The worst you could tell me is no. Or the worst that'll happen is, it doesn't work out. And then you just kind of start over. So do it. And try to see if you can do it with minimal financial input. It's possible. Because it allows space for experimentation without feeling like there's this financial burden, right? And so do it, try it. I would say from a business perspective, right, from a consulting perspective, really connect with other people who are consultants. It doesn't matter how big or how small or what business is, because that's a whole different beast, right? That's not as easy as a do it. But I do feel like people who want to change careers or get into another career, you can always go back to higher ed. You can always go back to teaching. You can always go back to dentistry or whatever it is that you're doing, right? But if you want to try something else, do it. And I will say I'm in that moment now where I'm like, okay, I think I really want to move into professional and personal development focus, right? Versus, client work in the past. How do I do that? So I'm just trying to do it, right? Where I want to create these spaces. I want to create these opportunities. And then do it scared.
Yeah. You heard it here from Mallory, folks. Change is scary, but you're never going to learn anything. You're never going to experience new experiences without just jumping into the deep end. So with that very poignant remark, I think we'll end this podcast here for now. Anytime that you want to come back on the podcast, you are very welcome. And I hope that the Badass Moms event is super successful. I know it will be. I'm definitely going to be at least there to support all the badass moms. I know Debbie Woldridge, our CEO, is going to be one of the panelists. So it should be really fun. We'll have all the links and such in the description, folks. Please join up, sign up, jump into the deep end. Let's make some change happen. So thank you so much, Mallory. This has been really fun.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for this week's episode. If you're interested in joining and supporting the Badass Moms event, there will be a link in the description. As Mallory said, this event is free for all to join. And if you're able to, give a donation. Also in the description are links to Black and L&D, as well as the Learning Exchange. We as an L&D community need to come together to help foster and support growth within this industry by supporting everyone and giving voice to those groups that have been overlooked, maybe by the color of their skin, where they come from, or the gender that they ascribe to. After all, that's what makes a community, right? See you next time.